Planing tack, couple things. Number one, a planing tack is a bit of an illusion statement, is that you are not going to plane out of a tack. Right? You can plane into a tack, you are not going to plane out of a tack. The only possible condition, no matter how fast you are, is if you are on an offshore wind and an onshore wave. And then theoretically I could plane through a tack because the board's going downhill. You might see some phenomenally fast tackers, right? Offshore wind, onshore wave. So while you're turning upwind, Brian, the board's going downhill.
You're surfing the wave.
Yeah, so you might be able to get around and not kill your speed. Now, a planing tack is designed so that we can tack what board? What board do we want to be able to tack? Short board, like the smallest board. Because we know that when a small board runs out of speed, it also goes underwater, and therefore it becomes a little bit harder to tack. So my planing tack, or the planing tack, is designed so you can tack the smallest of small boards successfully. Now there are two, well really there's one really major problem, illusion, mental issue that we have with the planing tack, and people assume that as the board gets smaller and the sail gets smaller and it gets windier, you have to move how?
Faster.
Faster.
Go fast.
Right, and that is the number one misconception. I swear, if I put you on a simulator and had you try to tack like you did your shortboard when it was really windy, you all fall down on the ground. Because everybody gets so amped up and so excited, and they jump and they throw themselves and they do all these crazy moves, that if I put you on a simulator, you'd fall over. There's no way you would do that on the ground, but on the water we think, oh, I gotta be quick because it's small, and you know, it's not about being quick. It's about being prepared, having your posture, and going early. Early is not quickly. Those are two different words, and when I tell you to do something early, we get excited and we move too quick. So it's not about being quick, it's about being prepared so we can go early. I used to teach the planing tack with 6 crashes. I would give you 6 crashes to a planing tack, and you would go out and work on crash number 1. When you got the feeling of that, or experiment number 1, you'd move to experiment number 2. Number 3, when you got to number 6, you had your planing tack. It's not a bad way to go about, Brian. You get to fall in on purpose. You're building a process, whatever. So the problem with that is that I would present that lecture, and Wojtek would be like, I'm going to do number 6. Right? He's not going to do the first 5. He's like, you know what? I don't need to do it. Brian, you're the same. You're like, yeah, screw that. I'm just going to the end. I'm not going to go out and do 6 crashes. So it was a really good thing in theory if you guys actually did what I asked you to do. But Norm's like, I don't want to do 6 crashes. I want to go right to the end. So we're going to talk about the end. We'll talk about how to do this. But I might pause to show you some experiments along the way. So, I'm going scary fast. I'm in the straps and harness. I'm ready to start my planing tack. First thing we're going to do, and this is optional, and this, Nina, is related to the size of you and the size of the sail. But while I'm still in the harness, I'm going to take my front hand to the mast. I'm still in both foot straps. Now this is optional because, Nina, if you're on a 7.5, you can't reach the mast, you know, if you're planing on the back. So it is an optional step. Longer armed people have a technical advantage on that particular request. So I'm going to take my front hand to the mast. I'm going to unhook from the harness. I'm going to hang down on the boom, and I am going to stick my back elbow straight under my back hand as I hang down, bob like we were doing on the big board tack. The reason for this is this will give me a lot of weight into the mast foot. My weight will go into the mast foot. I can keep some power in the sail, but obviously from a low hang and a bent arm, I am not going to be able to hold full power. But I would like to be light so that I'm coasting, keep the weight on the mast base. So we're ripping along, we take front hand to the mast, we unhook, we hang down, back elbow down like a meat cleaver. We take the back foot out of the foot strap, we bring it forward on the board, even possibly crossing the foot. That is an option. And then the front foot's going to come out of the foot strap and step forward on the board. Where has the sail moved? Hasn't moved. Okay, even though I'm starting to go forward, guess what? Sail stays on the back. If I come forward and bring the sail forward with me, everything's going to slow down. Now, have I turned yet? Have I turned? Did I say anything about turning? No. you're on the back of a shortboard and you carve it upwind, how fast does it turn upwind? Quick, right? The smaller the board and the windier and the crazier, when you're standing in the foot straps on the back and you carve upwind, it carves upwind quick. So the problem is, if I start on the back of the board and carve upwind, that board's going to get to 12 o'clock or straight upwind or to Nina before I move again. And by the time I get straight upwind, if I'm on the back of the board, where do I have to go to tack? I got to get up to the front. By the time I get up there, it's already too late. How many of you have carved your board from the front? Who has carved their board from the front? Out of the foot straps? Not too many of us. We used to do it in the old days when the mast base and foot straps were, 5 hands apart. You'd get out of both straps and step up by the mast and carve. Hate to admit it. But really, we don't. So what our first move is to unhook, hang down, and move forward on the board. And we're going to learn to carve from the front of the board. That way, when the board gets to 11 o'clock or 11:30 or 12:30, just before 12, we can make our move. And since none of you really raised your hand confidently, Jake was debating it, is that if you haven't practiced carving from the front, it's time. This is a new thing. We got to learn to go forward and keep our speed. If I don't have to move again once I get to 12 o'clock, other than my actual transition work, I'm in good shape. So, ripping along, going scary fast. We drop that front hand to the mast, that waist tight. We unhook, we hang down with the back elbow bent. We take the back foot out of the strap, bring it forward. Pry toes on the center line, even possibly crossing them. Bring that front foot forward. Now what is deceiving is that you should see me hanging out and down, which I can't do on the simulator because it won't hold me up and I'd fall and look pretty silly, but my body should be down and out more than you're looking at right now. From our forward position, Coach, now we're going to put our weight onto our heels. Hanging it down on that back elbow, the board is going to start to carve towards Nina.
Watch like
So, we unhooked, we're forward on the board. Now we're going to drop the weight onto the heels and we're going to carve upwind towards Nina. In the planned crash approach, if you've never done that before, don't worry about doing anything next. Try to carve to 11 or 1, the short side of 12, and coast. Just try to carve up to the almost upwind position and see if you can then at that point see how long it takes till you run out of speed. Just coast. Cool. So we're ripping along, front hand of the mast, we unhook, we hang down, we drop that back elbow, we bring the feet forward on the board, we load the heels, we start carving upwind. When we are about an hour before 12 o'clock, to a half an hour before 12 o'clock, you're almost straight upwind. Even though you're full planing, Norman, we're going to shift the weight up to the front foot with an attitude. We're going to throw a pause in our step that we don't want to do. We're going to shift our weight and stand up. Most of us carve upwind. We leave all our weight on our back foot, and when we're ready for that small board tack, we push off really hard with that back foot because it has all our weight, and one of two things happen. The back foot moves about an inch, or you get a really good push at it, and what happens to most of us when we tack the small boards is we go flying off the front. So I have to put in a shift and a lift that I don't want to do. Even though I'm planing, I want to shift the weight off that back foot so that when I lift it up and make my step, my upper body's not going all over the place. When I leave the weight on the back foot and make the push, then I'm going to constantly be auguring or teetering. So I have to throw in a pause that I don't really want to do because I think, oh my God, I got to go fast. It's such a small board. This is so exciting. I've got to slow down and fix a posture so that I can look graceful and keep that upper body pretty stable on the motion. So, we're hanging down, we're carving upwind, we're between an hour to a half an hour before 12. We shift the weight onto the front foot with an attitude. We're going to snap the clue hand off the boom, which I'll explain more in a minute. We're going to snap the clue hand off the boom. We're going to release the clue hand. We're going to reach and step. Just like we do on our normal tack, our old back hand goes to the new front side of the boom and the old back foot steps up on the nose. I think everybody but Norman has learned to tack from us, and his are good enough as far as his handed footwork. Although you do like to switch on the mast, Norman, but we'll go boom to boom with the back hand. Crossing over. We're going to take a big step to the back. We're going to look straight upwind, and we're going to take a breather. the end will be multiple choice. At this point, I don't care if the board sinks. I got around to the new side. I'm happy I was able to make my transition. And I, unfortunately, am not Tanina yet. So if you step onto the new side and you are backwinded, because the board hasn't turned far enough, we're going to continue to leave the sail to the back, backwinding our way up to 12 o'clock, and then throwing the sail forward and sheeting in. And if you get to the new side and you're left or neutral, great. You're already pointed straight upwind, you can have a breather, you don't care if the board sinks, then again, sail forward, weight back, we bow and arrow and we turn ourselves off the new direction. And if I get around and the board has turned too far, and the sail is starting to pull me over already, I don't dare turn the motor on. If I go around and the board's turned too far, that also probably means the nose went underwater. And if the nose went underwater and I turn the motor on, what's going to happen to the nose? It's going to keep diving. So we step back on the new side. If we go too far around, we're better off actually luffing and tennis saving, uncorking the nose, and then trying to sheet in and go, and trying to get that weight off the nose before we turn the motor on. Very fast, we drop the front hand of the mast, we unhook, we hang down, we keep that back elbow down, take the back foot out of the strap, bring it forward, take that front foot out, bring it forward. From here we load the heels, the board starts to carve upwind. About a half an hour to an hour before 12, we shift the weight up to the front foot with an attitude, we throw a pause in, we reach, step, snapping the backhand off the boom. We take a giant step back looking straight upwind. This is so key. I need that front shoulder pointed where I'm going and not looking back at the sail. If you're having trouble making your tacks, I bet you any money you're staring at the sail on the finish. You take a big step back, multiple choice finish. If the sail's pushing against me and I'm backwinded, I'm going to hold it back and lean into it. If the sail doesn't push against me, then I'm pretty much neutral. I can throw it forward, pop and drop, and head off the new direction. There are two directions of pull with the back arm down. The down pull can be dramatic. So I really pulled down, that makes me light. I'm lifting myself up off the board. Out pull is not very strong because I'm in such an odd posture. Plus it's really hard to carve upwind aggressively, you guys, if you're sheeted in. You want to carve upwind, you don't want to be sheeted in. Because sheeting in is going to give me lateral push and really try to drive me in the direction, where if I'm a little bit open and hanging down on it, I can sheet out, not backwind sheet out or sheet out to the point where I have no forward pull, but I can drop down to about 20 or 15% power, but still have my weight on the rig so I can carve upwind without that huge lateral pull on the arm. So if my elbow's up or I'm pulling on it, it's going to be too much power to get a smooth carve, and my feet are going to be really heavy. If I'm down low and pulling on it, then I can get like 20% power in the sail on a lateral basis. I can get 80% of my weight down on the clue, and then I can sneak forward so my feet are light. Jake.
So you don't lean the sail back?
It's going to stay in its planing position.
Okay.
So on a normal board with a normal fin jake, the sail will already be back, and we're going to keep it there. On a freestyle board, since the sail is pretty upright, you don't want to pull it back to go into a tack, or you're going to spin the fin out. So the sail will stay in its normal sailing position, and normal planing position.
And you don't carve in the straps just because you don't carve upwind in the straps and then try to get around just because you'll have too much room to walk.
More than likely, I'm going to come off a plane or be late. When you get good at this, you guys, you can carve and walk. You will see me walk forward and carve in one move. I'm
talking about, you said you carve from the middle of the board.
I want to carve out of the straps.
Right, okay.
Now, I am telling you guys right now to move forward and then carve upwind to get that feeling. I am to the point now where I walk and carve. So I am walking forward while I am carving, so that when I get straight upwind, or just before straight upwind, I'm ready.
Right, but you're not staying in the straps until you're ready to get around to the other side.
Right, because that is just, because then you end up with that big step and that huge launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.